Today we're going to talk about something that's new with InTouch and InTouch for System Platform 2014 R2, something called AlarmBorder Animation. If we look at the screen here, I can see I have some meter symbols on my screen. These are symbols that are part of the situational awareness graphic library. And inside of this symbol, I can define what a high level alarm is by this tick mark and a high alarm by this tick mark, also over here on my pressure meter. So you can see if I increase my pressure here to reach that threshold, I'm going to get a high alarm, and that high alarm is showing up in my alarm grid at the top. If I get into a high alarm condition, you can see it's also showing up in my grid. Same thing with my temperature. My temperature, when I reach that high threshold, it's going to show up in my grid, and when I get to that high threshold, it's also going to show up in the grid. Also notice in the grid that there are different alarm colors here, so I can define different severity levels to equate a certain type of priority to a severity level, so I can change the color based on that priority or based on that severity level. Those severity levels are defined inside the IDE under the configuration for the alarm and vent configuration, and you can see I can define these 4 different severity levels, and I can define what that priority range is for those different severity levels. And I also can define what that image looks like when I have an alarm condition on the screen. It will show this image, so someone will recognize this as a severity 1 or severity 2 type alarm. So currently we have not configured the AlarmBorder animation. So let's go into development mode and show you how to configure that AlarmBorder animation. So if I go into development, this is an orchestra symbol. I'm going to go into the orchestra symbol editor. I'm going to edit that symbol. And if I click on this meter control, one of the things I need to do is I need to turn on the AlarmBorder. Before I do that, I need to make sure this symbol mode is set to advanced. So I have basic or advanced. If I turn on advanced, it's going to expose some other properties here that I can turn on. If I go down to the bottom, you see something called AlarmBorder Animation. I'm going to turn that to true. So when it does that, it creates some custom properties that I need to assign to the correct variable so it gets that information so it can use the AlarmBorder animation. So if I go here and I go to substitute my references, you can see some things referenced to me.pv. I really need to point them to me.press1. So I'm going to do a replace me.pv. I'm going to replace that with me.press1. Replace all, so now those properties are correct. So I'm going to go over here to this temperature variable also, and I'm going to go make sure that's set to advanced, which it is. I'm going to go down here to my AlarmBorder, and I'm going to enable that AlarmBorder, set that to true. I'm going to go do that same substitution, substitute those references. I'm going to replace that me.pv, and I'm going to replace that with me.temp1. Place all, say OK, check this guy in, save and close it, and close the object out. Then I go into my development mode and go to runtime. So now I have those AlarmBorder animation turned on. I'm going to enable this alarm. You can see when I get to this high level tick mark, it's going to generate an alarm up here in my banner, but also going to put on here is the AlarmBorder that we just turned on. So that is the AlarmBorder that we've been talking about to be able to give that information to the operator, let the operator know that there's a problem with that particular pressure sensor out there or that pressure variable. If I set that up to a high, you can see it goes to a red, it's flashing. So the whole idea is to get the operator's attention, let them know, hey, there's an issue with this meter out here. You need to take some action. If I acknowledge this alarm, go here to this acknowledge alarm, I'm going to acknowledge the selected alarm. So you can see it reverted back to the high level. So it's telling me that I still have an unacknowledged high alarm. That's kind of the highest priority that an operator needs to do. He needs to acknowledge that alarm. So I'm going to acknowledge that alarm. I'll acknowledge all those alarms there. And then you can see it stopped flashing, but it's showing me now that I still have an alarm, right? I still have an acknowledged alarm, this high alarm, in that current state. So it's going to stay, it's going to look like this until you take it out of that alarm condition. So if I drag it out of that alarm condition, you can see it reverted back to the high alarm, and now I've taken away, the AlarmBorder goes away. Same thing here on this other temperature variable I have over here. You can see I have this set for a different priority. This is a priority 4 alarm. When I get this temperature alarm, high on this temperature alarm gives me a priority 4, different color scheme, And if I give this a high, which is a level 3 alarm or severity 3 alarm, it gives me that condition. If I take it away, the alarm out of that condition, you can see the animation, the border animation, it stops blinking, but it kind of puts a different border on it. It's telling me, hey, this is an unacknowledged alarm that returned to normal. So the alarm went out of the alarm condition, but has not yet been acknowledged. So it's just another visibility feature that we have to give the operator a good view of what alarms are acknowledged, what alarms aren't acknowledged on his HMI screen, as opposed to just looking at the grid. So if I go here and acknowledge these alarms, that border animation went away. So what we showed you is how to configure alarm border animation in a pre-built symbol. These are symbols that were built by Wonderware using the symbol wizard. You can use the symbol wizard to build very similar type symbols. But let's talk about how do I add alarm borders to normal things that I would draw, either variables on the screen or rectangles, circles, squares, whatever you can draw. You can put alarm border around that symbol that you actually draw. So I'm in my graphic editor here, and you can see I had a variable that was just being displayed on the screen. So if I double click on this, you can see the animation is a value display, so it's showing that value. But the new animation that I can add is something called an alarm border animation. So it's going to put an alarm border around this variable. And I need to point it to the variable that's going to look at. So it's me, I'm using IntelliSense here, and this is going to be my pressure. So there's press 1. So it automatically points to the variables that the alarm border animation uses to display the correct alarm border color and the symbol that's being used for that alarm border. I'm going to do the same over here for my temperature. I'm going to add the alarm border animation. I'm going to point this to me.temp1 using IntelliSense, say OK, it fills in those custom properties for me. I also can add alarm border to any graphic that I draw on the screen. So if I just put a rectangle on the screen here, and I double click and I go to animations and I click on alarm border and I point that to a variable. I put me dot, this is my pressure using IntelliSense here is going to fill that in for me. It's going to automatically fill in all the alarm border custom properties that are needed there. If I did the same thing with a circle, the alarm border is going to kind of follow that circle. So double click on that guy, add an alarm border animation, me dot pressure, say OK. Or if I draw any size element or any shape of an element, if I click this this device here and I draw something that looks like this, and then I add alarm border animation to that. Click on alarm border, me dot pressure 1. Say OK. Let me duplicate these over here for my temperature over here. I'm going to duplicate these, stick them over above my temperature variable. I'm going to right click. I'm going to do a substitute my references here, and me pressure, I'm going to point that to me.temp1 and say OK. I'm going to save and close that. Go to my development and go to runtime. You can see there are those symbols on my screen. So now when I generate an alarm, you can see the alarm border is going to show up around all those. No matter what size it is, the shape, it kind of follows the shape of the symbol. And give it a high alarm, you can see. So the alarm border, no matter what I draw on the screen, whether it's text down here or whether it's some kind of element that I draw on the screen, the alarm border animation is going to follow that. So it's going to get the operator's attention, let him know, hey, I have a problem out here. Let's go take a look at this problem before something actually happens. Same thing over here. There's the different severity levels that I have, and I go to a severity 3 level. The alarm border animations will follow those severity levels. So what I'm showing here is an example of using an alarm border animation within a process graphic. You can see Mixer 100 here has an unacknowledged severity level 1 alarm. I have a couple severity level 1 alarms on the other mixers. Mixer number 300 here looks like it had a severity level 1 alarm, but it has gone out of that alarm condition, so it's showing me it's been unacknowledged. Now it's showing me there's a level 2 alarm in that Mixer 300. So you can kind of see the whole concept here is to draw your eyes to these alarm borders, get the operator's attention, let him know, hey, there is a problem out there that he needs to take care of. We're showing here is another example of using alarm border animation in a process overview screen. You can see This is a process overview looking at different areas of your plant, looking at filter 400, drawing the operator's attention, say, hey, I got a problem here, I need to take care of this. So what you can do is you can drill into filter 100 to find out what the problem is, and if you drill in, you can see the AlarmBorder animation draws your eyes to this level transmitter here saying, hey, there's a problem with the level of this process. Let's go take a look at that. So that's the essence of what the AlarmBorder animation is. In a high-performance HMI, situation awareness type graphics, draw the operator's attention to things he needs to look at beyond just looking at the numbers and the variables on the screen. Thank you for watching today.
Need to learn more about this and other in-source products? Check out our training tracks designed to guide you down your learning path for in-source products. Whether you're using a classic InTouch and Historian architecture or using System Platform, we have a track to help you get the most out of your software investment. To register or learn more, click the link in the video description below. Thanks for watching this in-source video.